There's another
Right.
player who's going to be in the background for the first 6 weeks for the Kansas City Chiefs. Charles Omenihu, defensive end, has been suspended for the first 6 weeks, stemming from a domestic violence issue that happened last year, I believe it was. I don't want to touch on it too much. I don't know the facts behind it. He's going to be out for the first 6 weeks. I find it odd that he was given 6 weeks. I don't, again, I don't know the facts. But from what I had skimmed through, it sounded almost like a Willie Gay situation where items were broken. Now again, I could be totally wrong on that.
Like a
Even
vacuum.
so, like a vacuum, but even so, and Willie Gay getting 4 games for that was absolutely ridiculous. Even so, it's still a first time offense. I do know that nobody went to the hospital. Nobody was injured. I remember reading that about the Omenihu situation. Nobody was pressing charges. Nothing came of it. So again, first time offense. It seems like 6 games is quite a lot. The NFL is setting a precedence, but they're setting a precedence that's never been set before. And I think there need to be some guidelines to this. I don't think that we've got good enough guidelines set forth by Roger Goodell and the commission for all of the for, I can't think of the word now. for all of the suspensions, that's not the word I was looking for, but for all of the suspensions that are being handed out for everything that's going down, I don't think there's
Disciplinary
good ones.
actions.
Sure, that are being handed down. I don't think there's good enough guidelines for first offense, second offense, third offense.
From a football aspect, man, it's concerning. I know it's only 6 games, but we were already worried about the defensive line coming into this season. He was part of the fix, and now we're going to be leaning heavily on some younger guys.
Our oldest and most veteran defensive end on the team is Mike Dana, who's 25 years old.
And let's just put it plainly, he's not. I don't think he is starter quality
No, he's
caliber
not.
in the NFL.
He's good at
He's a rotational
coming
guy.
in,
Yeah,
and he's good at that piece. He's not a starter.
yeah.
Now, the main defensive guy, the Patrick Mahomes of our defense, as many have been calling him over the last month, Chris Jones, has yet to show up to practice. He has now been fined $50,000 per day. He's missed enough time to where he now owes $1 million in fines for not showing up to practice and even holding in. He's been holding out. He's been staying away from the team. He's not shown up for anything. $50,000 a day. He's up to $1 million in fines. And it seems through his Twitter activity that we're not going to be coming to a deal anytime soon. It sounds like Brett Veach is sticking around that $25 to $28 million per year range. I don't know where they're looking at in guaranteed as far as the Chiefs. Obviously, Chris Jones is looking for 30, 20, probably 29 to 31 fully guaranteed, probably 3-year deal is what I would be guessing. He's 29 right now. So that would put him out at 31 to 32, depending on when his birthday falls.
If we
I don't
don't
know.
sign him, does he just not play football this season, or like is he going to get signed somewhere else?
Well, he can't. He's under contract for the Kansas City Chiefs. He is not able to be signed by another team. He's not franchise tagged. He has the 2023-2024 season is under contract and he is owed money for this season. Now, if he holds out, we can withhold his paycheck. I would assume that Chris Jones would, if continuing to hold out through the rest of the preseason and owe whatever money he owes, he would be back in time for the season to collect his game checks. But he would walk away unless franchise tagged, potentially hold out again after this season is over. I would not, there's no indication by any circumstances that he would hold out for the season. He would lose too much money. And to be out for a whole season as a defensive tackle / defensive end with very little time left in the league, that just does not make any sense at all.
Any games that the Chiefs play without both Omenihu and Chris Jones, that defense is going to suck.
and he holds a lot of leverage right
We are
now.
not talented enough in other positions to make up for losing a player like Chris Jones. We're not talented enough on the back end to not have a good defensive line. Omenihu and Chris Jones were going to be very vital pieces to this. They were going to be the lifeblood of that defensive line. And without those two pieces, we are not going to be good enough to even be a top half defense. We're going to be in the low 20s. We're going to be giving up a lot of points. We're going to be going into shootouts with teams like the freaking Broncos. Like,
Sean, I want to get your thoughts on this because you guys both know how much I do not like Spags. And Sean, I think you've been on the other side of this a little more often than I have. Oh, just a little bit more than I have. Since Spags has been a Kansas City Chiefs coordinator, we have had, and granted, he's been better than Bob Sutton, but that's not saying a whole lot. The Chiefs have had the worst defenses in the Super Bowl era that have been competing for titles. So much that in the two Super Bowls that we've played in, the two Super Bowls that we've won, the three Super Bowls that we've played in, those three defenses have been the worst defenses in NFL history playing in the Super Bowl. By every single metric, they have given up the most points, they have given up the most yards than any defense in the Super Bowl era. And that is with Chris Jones coming off the backs of two Super Bowl wins as well. Without Chris Jones, how much worse is that defense? How much worse is the team?
Putting it mildly, minimum 20 times worse on defense. He is that big of a piece for us. If we don't have him, our whole entire scheme falls apart. Especially with Spagnuolo as the coordinator back there, Jones is the driving force of that defense. We don't have him. We're not getting into the quarterback. They're going to have all day to throw the ball. They're going to run all over us. And we're just not going to be able to stop a nosebleed if that happens.
It's not looking pretty. I don't know what the options are, right? You can trade him. Hopefully he's happy with wherever he goes and you can get a good return on him. He's got 1 year left on the contract. That means the team that takes him is going to have to probably not give up a whole lot because they're only going to be getting 1 year out of him.
Now, I did see he tweeted out I believe it was yesterday, KC, I love you.
Yep.
To you, it sounded like maybe he was ready to leave. He's gone. To me, he tweeted that same thing out just a few years ago, right before he signed his extension.
4 days before his
prior.
extension.
Yeah, so I think he just loves being a little bit of internet troll.
Sometimes. He does. No, he definitely does. He's on Twitter to be a troll a lot. I don't this time for some reason feels a lot different, but I could see him doing the same thing and just repeating, what he has done. That would not surprise me. And I genuinely hope that's the case. We've got the money to do it. I think it will benefit us. I don't think he has the fall off that everybody is kind of expecting. I don't know. But
barring a big injury, like there's really no indicators that he's going to decline in ability. Like he's consistently improving.
Yep.
Like his
WAR this past season was a 0.5. Every season prior to that, it was a 0.3. Now that's a different statistic that goes into a lot of analytics, but just know that is a very good, like the average of the league is like 0.1 for defensive tackles. And he's sitting at a 0.3 every year, except for this past season where he sat at a 0.5 WAR.
And I feel like fingers crossed he stays with us. There's a lot that the coaching staff and the organization can do to maximize his effectiveness as his ability may fall off.
Yep. We've got a couple more items here. We'll get through these pretty quickly because, again, it's the preseason. We've got the very first game coming up on Sunday at noon against the Saints. We don't know what's going on with the wide receiver room. Andy Reid has never carried more than 6 wide receivers on the roster. This year, we are not carrying a fullback. Do you think that translates into an extra wide receiver position or an extra tight end position?
Andy loves his tight ends, but I don't know. I could see us getting rid of Blake Bell, keeping Jody, Travis, and Noah Gray. But with nobody at wide receiver this year, we gotta go for 7.
I don't know. I mean, because you also throw in the Deneric Prince argument. I don't necessarily know how the organization is feeling on Clyde right now. But it could be 4 tight ends, could be 4 running backs, could be 7 wide receivers. Like, I think there are good enough players in that whole batch of skill position players on the offense that it's going to come down to some very minute details on who makes that team. But somebody who is still good at football, someone who could go play for another team and not just sit back on our practice squad, is going to be out of a spot on our Chiefs offense.
There is a lot of talk about either Jody Fortson or Blake Bell being cut. That is a total possibility. I'd like to remind everyone that the preseason rules do apply until the 53-man roster is set. So that means that prior to the 53-man roster, you do not need to cut a player to place them on the practice squad. As long as the player agrees to be on the practice squad, they do not need to be cut and go through waivers. They can automatically be moved to waivers. I think there's a certain number of spots before they have to be cut and moved through the waivers. But Deneric Prince, Jody Fortson, both would be eligible players to go onto the practice squad. Jody, obviously, we wouldn't like to see that. We love Jody. We want him to be able to play. He's been on the practice squad for a while prior to this past season. That is an option for him. If we're looking at moving off of a guy to create cap space, if that's what we need to do, Blake Bell's going to be that guy. He's a little bit older. He does know the Andy Reid offense. He's been an integral part in us being able to win Super Bowls. And if we're worried about injuries, I don't know if you worry more about Blake, who just was out the entirety of the last season, or Jody, who can't stay healthy.
I was going to say it doesn't look great for Jody because he's got another injury this preseason. I think from an injury standpoint, that's probably the guy that is the odd man out. I think it would be great if he would agree to go back on the practice squad.
I think he can make a team. I think he can make.
That's what I'm saying though. Like
teams.
he is good enough to go play for another team, and if he does, I would wish him the best of luck. I want to see some highlights. I want to see some touchdown catches, but and like the man just picks up injury after injury, man. I mean, they're none of them are like super serious. Like, he's not out for a bunch of time, all at one time, but it's just it doesn't look good when you're constantly picking up those injuries and not being available.
And you have another tight end like Matt Bushman coming up out of nowhere, having a really good camp right now.
Yep. You got Noah Gray. I mean, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys that you got to be thinking about. Plus the versatility. Again, we're out of fullback. You got to be able to keep tight ends or running backs who are a little bit bigger, who can play that fullback role, because Andy still wants to utilize. Andy still likes to utilize the fullback. Noah Gray has played fullback. Bushman has played fullback. Andy Reid will use them in those positions as long as they're on the roster.
Obsolete.
Kyle Juszczyk's what, the last fullback in the league?
Patrick Ricard, Ravens.
He's being moved to offensive line.
Oh, no way.
He's being moved.
Fatty.
6'5", 320 pounds. He is being moved to guard.
Jesus.
So then let's do this. We are finally at our first preseason game of the year. I am excited to finally watch the boys in red back on the field. Tybo, who's the player you are going to be watching the most in this first preseason game?
Look, if I can even watch the game, okay. But let's just face it. Our defensive tackle position is a little bit depleted. So I'm going to have my eyes on rookie Keandre Coburn.
Yes.
If we can get value out of that round 6 pick,
I think we can, man.
while
He's good.
while all these issues that we've had, I'm going to feel a lot better if he shows up to play. If he turns out to be starting caliber or at least rotation caliber defensive tackle.
Sean, who you got? Who you watching?
Can I get 2 guys? 1 offense, 1 defense?
Be quick.
All right, I got Justin Ross on offense.
Of course.
A lot of first team reps. I love seeing it. The hype is real. Like I said earlier in the offseason, the hype is up to my tits with him right now. I'm ready to see him go. Defense, I'm gonna go with Nick Jones, rookie. He has been doing some great stuff in camp. I've seen a lot of highlights from him. Cornerback.
Corner.
He looks really good out there. He's getting a lot of interceptions from what I've seen.
Cool. There's a lot of hype around a lot of guys in the DB room. Nazee Johnson, who was getting a lot of first team reps and being hyped up. Now, I don't know what, I can't remember off the top of my head what his injury is, but he is
ACL,
out.
right?
So I thought that was the case. I don't know if it's fully torn. Hoping it's not. Hopefully
even if he was healthy, like I think I talked about it last time, but even if he was healthy, and then now Nick Jones, they are not jumping Josh Williams and Jalen Watson on that cornerback at depth chart. They're just not.
And maybe not.
They've earned the right to be.
Rotation.
I mean, their level of play last year, they've earned the right to be our starters, or the next guy in line after McDuffie and Snead.
Yeah. Sean stole my offensive guy in Justin Ross. I knew it was going to come, and I'm okay with that because I had a backup. I am super excited to see what Justin Ross can actually do. Can he make the roster? Can he fight for a spot? Can he fight his way up to the 1, 2, or 3, especially with Kadarius Toney out? And we're going to need a guy to do so. Can he be that guy who puts up the hype up to Sean's tits and actually produce?
Sean's a tall guy. What are you, 6'3", bud?
6'3", straight up.
That's a lot of
that's a
lot of hype.
That's some tall tits.
I will be watching very, very closely a guy who was on the team this last year who will be stepping into a starting role. One Brian Cook, a guy who will need to step up and be a leader. He was in the franchise. He spoke a little bit on the franchise. I don't know if you guys watched the first episode that came out on YouTube. Fantastic. Love that 20, 30-minute little show that the Chiefs put out once a month. But Brian Cook is the guy that needs to be watched. He's going to be paired with Justin in the back, covering all the gaps. He can fly. He can hit. I want to see his head be screwed on a little bit tighter this year. There were a lot of mistakes, small mistakes that were made. He gave up a lot of penalties, and he let some things go over the top of his head. This past season, I'm going to be watching him to see if he is ready to step up to the plate as a number 1 safety at his position on this team.
Yeah, dude, the promise is there. I think everybody in Chiefs Kingdom is expecting him to make a big jump in his second year. As rookies do, he got better as the year went on. It culminated in that pass deflection in the Bengals game. The dude made big plays in big moments. So I have no doubt that he is going to be great for us this year.